you for joining me today, everybody. I really appreciate your willingness to speak about the situation that's going on in long-term care in Ontario right now. And I'm joined today actually by a wonderful group of folks. The first with us is actually the executive of the OARC, Dee. How are you doing today?
Hi, Andrew. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here to share some of the poignant messages around what's happening in long-term care as we work through the COVID-19 pandemic together.
Awesome. I'm also joined by Sharron. Sharron, would you mind telling us a little bit about your role with the OARC and a bit about the home that you're at right now?
Okay, I'm Sharron Cooke. I am president of OARC and also resident leader at Newmarket Health Centre. My role with the resident council is to advocate on behalf of the residents when we deal with the ministry or any teachings or anything we do with courses, just to get the word out and express how the lived experience in long-term care. And that's my role with OARC within the home, it's within the residents in our home.
Awesome. And I'm also joined by Barry. And could you tell us a little bit about your role and position, Barry?
Certainly. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, my name is Barry. I am on the board of directors for the Ontario Association of Residents Council, the OARC. And in my home in Windsor, Ontario, we presently are virus-free, and I'm doing well this time.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that you guys are still virus-free. Finally, we're also with Devora. How are you doing today, Devora? Would you be able to tell us a bit about your role?
Yes. I am on the leadership team of Residents Council in my home, and we advocate for people who can't speak for themselves. I am also treasurer of the Ontario Association of Residents Councils, and I do the finances with the help of my pal, Julie.
Awesome. That's a very important role. Definitely need to know where the money is going.
Yes, and I live at Bayview Extended Care in Toronto, and we are full of the COVID virus.
Right. You know, I know Barry had said that he's not got any cases at his home currently, but Sharron and Devora, what is the situation there in terms of infection counts and how are things looking?
In my home in Newmarket, we're COVID, and they have did the stipulations right from day one, and it's kept us safe. That is one good thing. Although the residents, I find it's depressing. You're in your room on your own. They haven't separated in one person per room, no matter where in the home, to try and keep you clear from anybody coming in with the virus. So we have no visitors. We're not allowed any things brought into the home until the COVID is free. Of course, there's lessened activities. They are starting to do some one-to-one, which I'm pleased to see because every resident needs some type of interaction going on.
Awesome. I know definitely activities are an important question that I'd love to kind of ask all of you guys near the end. When it comes to...
I do a little bit myself on putting out bulletins saying we're COVID-free and thank you to the staff and announce birthdays for the moms and try to do a coloring contest or some type of thing just to get that interaction and something for them to read in that. And we do FaceTime as well, so staff will go around and do a little bit of FaceTime with the ones that don't have computers or phones. We get FaceTime.
Awesome. And sorry, just to kind of round it out, Devora, what's the situation with COVID at your home currently?
Well, unfortunately, I can't say we're COVID-free. We have had the virus in the home from probably close to day one, and we've been struggling with trying to keep people from getting it, but unfortunately, it spreads like wildfire. And right now, we have a unit. This home, everything's on one floor. So they have the home divided into units. And right now there is a specific unit within the home that has the virus. The rest of us who are virus-free have been cohorted into another unit. So that means we're moved out of our room. It's difficult because you're in a strange room. You have none of your things that you can access. I was told the same morning, I was told I was moving that after lunch, and I had to get everything organized for the move because there was no way I could go back to my room for anything. So like I had to remember that I had to take all my wash stuff and my shampoo and underwear and some tops and some slacks, and it was nice and warm when I moved. Now it's cold and I don't have any heavy sweaters, and I have them in my room, but I can't get at them. It's very frustrating, and I'm in a small area all by myself. I have been like that since the middle of March, since the virus broke out in the home, and I've been by myself. The staff comes in. They don't have time to really talk to us or spend time with us because they have so many other people to look after. So they kind of just come in and say, here's your breakfast, here's your lunch, here's your dinner, I'll change your hot water, you need anything, and that's about it. That's no human interaction, which is very difficult. It's like, especially if you're a people person. I mean, I'm going absolutely crazy at this point. I think today is a day that everything got to me, and I feel hemmed in. I have to eat my meals in my room. The meals come in cardboard containers with plastic cutlery. I don't have a TV. Thank goodness for a radio and a computer. But it's like, you get so depressed because you wake up in the morning and there's basically nothing to do. However, I had a chat with the program director yesterday, and all the residents within the home they're making sure that all the residents in the home are being in contact with their families and their loved ones. They have set up special phone lines for families to call in, and special phone lines for residents to call out for those who don't have telephones in their rooms. They're also using tablets, and the activity staff is going around doing that. They also have, the same as in Sharron's home, coloring books, coloring sheets, word search, crossword puzzles. As a matter of fact, I love crossword puzzles. And I'm having trouble with my eyes. So the program manager sent me a large print crossword puzzle, which I'm enjoying doing. But really, going back to getting up in the morning, there's basically nothing to do. And some mornings I hate to get out of bed because I know that I'm just going to do absolutely nothing. Yeah, I find it very depressing.
That loneliness and isolation, I think, is something that is tough for those of us to outside of the situation to really grasp. I know everyone is currently isolated. I feel pretty trapped in my own home, but not to the degree that's got to be going on there. What about for you, Barry? I know there's no cases there, but is your life situation similar for the people at your home?
I would say very similar. In respect to our dining experience, we expanded the dining rooms to enter into what we call the family room. So we've got the dining room, family room areas. So we do practice the distancing principle. And that experience has been good. We have not yet moved into dining in our own rooms yet. What else have we done? There's also, as far as recreation, there's not a lot of activity. We do have some. It's, again, in recognition of the distancing issue, we do the best that we can. It's very difficult. It is strained. It's it's tormenting at times, and I do understand Devora's situation where there are so many restrictions. And I'm glad to say that in my home, I'm allowed to wander on my neighbor's floor, but that's the extent of my getting out.
Yeah. It's Sharon here. It's very difficult, Andrew, when when you're isolated to your house. You can still go around and go outside on the porch or go for a walk. Residents can't go past their doorway, so they're stuck right in their room.
Yeah, you can't go from room to room, so that if you get tired of sitting in the living room on the sofa, you can walk into the kitchen. Exactly. And that's another thing. You guys can go and get a snack whenever you want. We can't do that. We have to wait till the snack cart comes around, which is like once in the afternoon and once in the evening.
Wow. Is that a similar thing going on in your home, Sharron? Are you also stuck in your room only?
Yeah, like you cannot. You can, very lonely. Very lonely. And I do worry about the other residents. I have my computer. I have my telephone. So I can call my daughter or I can do things like this. And I have what we call, Barry and I do a program called Resident Forum, where we talk, like Zoom. We talk to other residents across Ontario to know that we're there to support them and support each other. But most residents, all they have is themselves. I spent my birthday, we were isolated before Christmas. So I haven't even been able to go to my office since before Christmas to do anything for the residents. I'm trying to use one of my drawers to store a few things so I can try and get a little bit of materials or whatever. But it's difficult. You can't be there for the residents, and that kills you. That you can't support your other fellow residents. And you have to kind of keep everything inside. I just found out another rule yesterday because I have to have a ventilator mask. They say, did you do your mask? I can't come in for 2 hours. And I thought, since when? Because I've done it for over 20 years. But this is another ruling that they can't come in if I'm using a ventilator mask. And I thought, that's strange. But it's something I have to deal with. So I have to wait until I know there's not a 2-hour period. They're not going to come in, so I can do mine now. And people, they just come to your door, ask you your questions or whatever. And it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Well, when they come in, when they come into Devora, when they come into the room, they have to put gowns on.
Yes, put gowns and masks.
Yeah, well, they wear masks and shields and head coverings when they're in the hall or when they're at the door, and they'll hand you something. I go to the door to pick it up, but if they come inside, they have to put the gown on as well. And then when they're finished, they have to take it and put it in a container. And periodically, they take the containers out.
Oh, sure.
And we also have this.
Sorry, Devora.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just wondering, with these changes in precautions and guidelines that everyone is going through, like this new one with the masks, do you think that it's actually helping? Do you feel like it's keeping you safer than it would be if they were to just kind of continue with sort of the cohorting or any other procedures? Do you find that it's helping? Directed towards Sharron.
I believe it's helping.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
It does help. If they didn't do that, whatever germs they may have or get from when they go home are going to be passed to the residents. That's protecting the residents as well, right?
Right.
Andrew, I just want to interject for a moment, if I may.
Okay.
I want to re-emphasize the situation regarding isolation. It is a horrifying experience to go through. And when you reach your senior years and being told you cannot talk with your family today, you may not talk to them tomorrow, You may not see your family today because you're in isolation. It's very, very painful. And I feel so moved by those who are caught in that trap. Also, I wanted to mention very quickly about the team members, the staff that are working within the homes. Number one, there's a tremendous, horrifying shortage of help. We need PSWs, personal support workers, assistants of any kind, volunteers, if you're allowed to go in. But these are some of the issues that we're dealing with as well. The absence of contact, the absence of activity, and the isolation is a torment in itself. And those are all difficulties we deal with, the staff on top of that. It is painful.
Well, can I speak to the shortage of staff, please?
For sure.
I spoke to the dietary manager, and she can't get anybody to come and work in the kitchen because of the virus. They won't come into the home because of the COVID virus. And she lost a lot of staff who quit because they were afraid. So they just left. But the staff that we have working here are phenomenal. They are great people. And really, they need to be commended because they really are on the front line.
They are.
And when they go home, they have to take their clothes off, have a shower, and wash their clothes right away. So they have to do that as well when they go home.
When it comes to the staff, I know we had spoken last time just about how crazy the situation had come to, where the social interaction you used to be able to have with a PSW is now much diminished because they're so covered in all this different equipment and this PPE that they're wearing, and then because of these shortages, they're just kind of in and out of your room. Do you feel, Devora, like you have any chance to talk to the staff when they are helping you out or when they are interacting with you on the daily? Is that changed and gotten any better?
Sometimes at night when the nurse comes in, because I don't go to bed that early, so she comes in just before her shift ends, so she'll have a little chat with me and we have a little joking session. But during the day, no, they don't have time. They really don't have time.
Yeah, it's Sharron here. I think the relationship of residents and staff has changed through the COVID because they're both scared on both sides. And really, I don't know if they feel they can deal with it, but there's a lot of doubt in their minds because they don't want to take it home to their families. And residents don't want to. They worry about the staff. They're tired. They're burnt out. And it's very difficult both ways. And I commend the staff that do work here. And I know a couple of staff that we lost went to another home, that one of the other homes they worked at. And they're covered in COVID, like everywhere. And they were sorry that they left here to go there, but you don't know. This is the choices you make. But it's a horrible situation. And it's nobody's fault, not the ministry, it's not the staff, not the home. It's a horrible tragedy that is very difficult and very heart-wrenching to deal with.
Definitely.
Sharron, you're
doing their best.
Sorry,
it's hard. Yeah.
You were saying that they went from one home to another. Well, we had a PSW who worked here who went to another home, and unfortunately she got the virus and she died.
Wow.
It's hard. Yeah. It's very difficult.
Yeah. It's so heartbreaking. People die that and it's like, it hurts. It really does. And you can't do anything about it. You can't even speak to the families and convey your condolences.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a challenging part about this whole situation is the torment of not only the isolation, but then also the people that you love getting sick or even dying. And particularly your case, Barry, because I think you brought up the point of how hard it is, specifically mentally. Has there been any focus in your home with improving the health mentally and emotionally of the residents?
Let me respond to that, Andy, by saying two things. Number one, we do have a chaplain who is site. He works regular weekly hours, and he is involved directly with visiting on each neighborhood. We have 3 floors in our home, and he visits them. He holds a simple chapel service. He's also made himself totally available for counseling, for families, for team members, and residents. So I'm blessed, I guess, in a way that he's here. Also, myself, because of my background and experience, I also have opportunity to visit in palliative cases. I've got 3 people right now that are in palliative care, and not because of the virus, but also need a warm hand and a gentle voice to be with them. So I take advantage of those opportunities as well.
Do you have any sort of situation like that at your home, Sharron? Is there a chaplain or any sort of mental health practitioner that's trying to help?
No, we have no chaplain. We did have, but they were in the process of looking for one. So there is no chaplain here. But Barry's right. You know, when you come to this age and you're going through the tragedies that got you here, I deal a lot with palliative care and that as well as Barry. That's what you need. You go back. You need that spirituality to get you through the journey. And I think something like that in the home, I think would be amazing, because it gives them that little bit of support, not only mentally, but spiritually as well.
So, but there's no alternative at your home in lieu of that right now?
No.
And what about you, Devora? Is there any sort of...
They have a social worker.
There's a social worker, sorry?
Yeah, yes. We do have a social worker that she always says, just call me anytime. But, I mean, she's dealing with 132 people. It's very difficult. She's trying to also do some of the other work around besides social work. She's doing a bit of FaceTime and things like that. So, you know, the pressures are on everybody, no matter who.
It's good that there's at least some sort of support system. You know, social work or some sort of therapy is definitely important in my opinion. Just in your situation, Devora, do you guys have any sort of mental health support going on at the home? I know especially that there are so many cases there.
No. We have a social worker, but I guess if I wanted to talk to her, she might be available. I'm not really sure, because she comes in and she's brought me mail, and she kind of stays at the door even though she's got a gown and stuff on. So I don't know, but to say we have help for our mental health or our depression or anything, no, we don't have anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's something that's probably sorely lacking then. Now, in terms of being stuck in your room and having any sort of physical exercise to care for the physical well-being of the residents, is there anything being done to create programming around that or give you opportunities to be physically healthy, Devora?
No. I do my own exercises when I feel like it. I used to go 3 times a week to do exercise, to maintain my balance and my mobility. But I try to do some of the exercises, holding on to my walker, and that's about all the exercise I get is what I do on my own. And I don't think anyone else gets exercises either.
Is that true, Barry? Do you have that same experience where there's not really anything going on in terms of physical health?
I would say that is very true in my case as well. That as far as any physical activity, it's non-existent at this time. That's all I can say. It's not here.
Yeah.
It's in any home right now, really.
Yeah. Also, too, Andrew and Sharron, the one thing is there's activation stuff around, but I think you'll agree with me. I would say there's so many residents with dementia and other complexities that need extra care, and it takes so much staffing for that the cognitives are more left back, and it's sad in a way, but being cognitive myself, I understand that it's so important to ensure that people that do not have the same cognitive abilities, to ensure that they are protected and to try and have something for them. A lot of them on our dementia unit are one-to-one. So that takes a lot of staffing. And that's the activation, extra PSWs, it takes a lot. So with us being cognitive and we're depressed, I can imagine the non-cognitive, like it's the unknown, right? They know there's something up, but they don't know what. So it's got to be very, very difficult.
Or why they have to stay in their rooms. We have a lot of people like that. Why do I have to stay in my room? They're so like.
Well, they try to keep them in their rooms, but they do start too long. Because most of them are ambulatory unless they're very advanced. Yeah.
Now, I know actually last time we had spoken as well, Dee, you had mentioned that there was some talk of trying to make it so that visitation or special visitors could be made essential to try to support people that were in homes. Is there anything?
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Dee can speak more on that. But, they are trying to do that, but home health are taking it too.
So last Friday, May 8th, OARC led or wrote a letter and submitted it. It was also signed by 10 other long-term care stakeholder organizations, really imploring the government to acknowledge the essential nature of psychosocial and emotional well-being for residents. It's been 9 weeks of isolation without seeing family members and without even seeing each other as friends and colleagues. Yesterday, I had a conversation with the Ministry of Long-Term Care and the Ministry of Health together, talking about what the future could look like, what the new normal could look like, because the reality is that COVID-19 will be in our long-term care homes, not for a matter of weeks or months, but for the long term. So what does a new normal look like? We talked about having the term essential visitors redefined to encompass people who would be declared essential for supporting the psychosocial and emotional well-being of residents. So we are in no way at all advocating for the doors to be swung wide open for visitors to come in en masse. But what we are looking for is a small cluster of people, maybe it's 5 people, 7 people, who would come in, be gowned in PPE and masks if appropriate or if needed, whose sole responsibility it would be every day to link residents with each other and residents with their families and the people they care for. So those discussions have taken place. We're looking at how it might be able to start, because it's going to look different in a home that is in outbreak with COVID-19 versus a home that is COVID-free. But there are risks associated with it. But our point is that if we do nothing, if we sit on our laurels and do nothing, in a matter of weeks and then subsequently months, we will be left with a group of residents who have physically survived the disease, but whose spirits have been broken. And then we're dealing with supporting them through the devastating effects of depression and loneliness and isolation. So those conversations are happening now, and we look forward to working with our ministry partners. The same way the economy and the community and businesses will be opened up very slowly, very cautiously, very safely, we have to look through that lens for long-term care as well.
That sounds very promising and like a very reasoned approach. Sort of that same question, Dee, is there anything the general public can do with regards to this new program or in the current situation to try to help out, to make sure that people get through both physically and emotionally strong?
Well, I think that the messaging from the general public to our ministry would be very important, not in an adversarial manner, but in an empathetic, understanding manner that we all need people. And, so to encourage the ministry, to encourage the long-term care home operators to be creative. Technology is the safest the safest, most viable avenue we have. So when this program is developed, we will need many iPads and laptops. We will need the human resources and the technical resources to make this happen. There are over 630 long-term care homes in Ontario. So you multiply this concept by that number, and we will need some targeted, organized way of collecting and distributing tablets and iPads and phones to make sure that we have the resources available.
Exactly. But we also have to ensure that all long-term care homes have Wi-Fi. Without Wi-Fi, there's no virtual programming at all.
That's an excellent point, Sharron. It's Dee speaking. Yep. Many long-term care homes have Wi-Fi in a graduated basis. So there's a robust sense of Wi-Fi for the team members and for the management, but often very limited Wi-Fi for resident use. So we
usually none.
We do need to have robust access to Wi-Fi. I mean, in this day and age, I would venture to say that having access to Wi-Fi is an essential need. It's an essential service in terms of essential right and a human right, if you will, to be connected to the community at large and certainly to friends and loved ones and to residents themselves. OARC is all about residents' council and ensuring that residents are empowered to be involved in the decisions that are made in their homes. So residents' voice has to be heard. And now in this new reality, the only way that we can safely accommodate that is through technology. So having a number of technological devices available in a home with robust access to Wi-Fi, connecting residents. Imagine, Sharron and Barry and Devora, imagine if, on any given day, you could be connected virtually with 5 of your co-residents to have a conversation. Right. You're all in different rooms. You're all in, perhaps on different floors, but you're having a group conversation. You can start in this small way to start getting your resident council business up and running again. That's what we have to look at, is a foresight to the future.
That's right. And what we do with residents across Ontario, we should be able to do within our own home. So those that are dead,
we have Wi-Fi here. I have Wi-Fi.
Yeah. No, we don't.
I'm lucky.
Yeah. If it wasn't for my daughter, I wouldn't have it. But she pays for it for me. And this is so important. There's so many virtual programs out there and learning programs, traveling, and all kinds of things, but they can't be used.
Wow. Now, it's not, from what I remember, it's not as simple as just necessarily getting everybody the technology, but it's also helping people that have experienced a cognitive decline use the technology as well. Is that another major sort of struggle in getting people connected and trying to find this way to communicate?
It is, and for people who are living with cognitive changes, it can be quite distressing to see a loved one's face on a tiny little phone on a screen that is 3 inches by 4 or 5 inches. What is often most helpful for people who are living with a dementia, for example, is to have a larger screen and to pose the interaction as though it's a window, and to have So you need a larger screen. You need an iPad or a laptop would be even better, and to broach that visit with the idea that their family is looking at them through a window. And of course, as I say, it does take human resources to have someone to be able to be side by side in a safe fashion. Again, a safe fashion with protective personal equipment, so that interaction can be facilitated.
The only thing with the personal equipment is the masks, because you can't sometimes understand what they're saying. You certainly can't see a smile, and I don't know what the answer to that is.
No, that's right.
Now, It was funny that you mentioned the window situation and being able to pose it as though it were a window visit. There's been a lot of talk lately about just having families come and visit by the window and sort of be on the other side, have that sort of interaction. And there's kind of a group on either side of the fence on that decision. Is that possible as a way to try to have and facilitate family visits, or is that not smart?
Well, the thing is, like, I'm 3 floors up. If my family were outside to visit, I could barely get over through the window to see them properly. They would have to be partly out in the parking lot, and
Well,
that's
I
a
think,
difficult
Sharon,
way of
it depends.
conversing with somebody.
It depends where your room is
You're
located.
situated. Yeah.
Like I'm situated in a room that overlooks a courtyard, so there's no way my kids could come near me. In my own room, which is at the other side of the building, I was right near a part where they could come up and to the window and wave to me. But where I am now, there's no way, because this is the interior of the home. The courtyard is like I'm trying to describe it with my hand. It's sort of in the middle of the home, and the courtyard surrounded by rooms, and you have to go through the lobby, and you would have to go through doors and come into the courtyard. So, and they won't allow that.
Maybe it's not the best solution for everybody in every situation then, hey?
No.
Yeah, no, it depends on the situation.
So maybe to kind of go back through one last time, what would be starting with Sharron, what would be the biggest takeaway that you would want people who are not familiar with the situation that's going on in long-term care besides this interview and to take away and really move with? What's the best information that they could have that you'd like them to know?
I think the best information would be to listen to the public health, do your distancing, and don't worry about what you can do. Think of what you can do to help others to get through this and support everybody in getting through it so that it can be, we don't know what's coming ahead of us. In long-term care, we don't know how things are going to be able to be in reaction or what they're supposed to be able to do. But try to ensure that you do the proper things now to hope that we would have a little bit more open life later. Because otherwise, you won't. And even in business and even raising your children, everything is going to change. Even the schools are going to change because it can't go back the way it used to be because it's just not the same anymore.
Yeah, I don't think the normal level will ever actually return to what it was. What about for you, Barry? What would be the biggest
in long-term care? Yeah, even a year and a half ago in long-term care, we were able to have a bunch of residents together go out for a dinner. Could you imagine that now? They'd be afraid to.
Andrew, I think to answer your question, what has been my biggest takeaway from my experience in this home during the epidemic, I would have to say that it would be a sense of shame. It is an absolute shame that our society is not even aware of what goes on in nursing homes. They don't know how cordial the staff and residents are. They don't know the trials and tribulations we experience. They don't know the absolute essence of our lives. It's locked up in a room right now and not allowed to live beyond the walls in the room. It's not wise at all to have to be locked up in a room and not be able to communicate. That's the strategic message that I have. I think the shame aspect in that society is not aware of what's been happening in our homes. Number two is the communication gaps that, yes, we do need Wi-Fi. We do need a high level of communication developed within our homes and to each other beyond what we're doing right now. And then maybe third, I would have to say, I thank God for the staff that works in my home and every other home in the province of Ontario. I say hallelujah and praise God. I thank you're there. I thank you for being on the job.
That's right.
Wow, yeah, the front line is really, really working. And I will admit that before speaking to you guys last week, I hadn't really no good idea of what was happening in long-term care myself, and no one in my family had
Uh-huh.
really been in it. So this has been very depressing and enlightening for me and heart-wrenching, honestly. Um, what about for you, Devora? What would be the biggest takeaway you think people listening to this should have about the current situation and the difference in the world's going on?
Well, Barry said it very succinctly, but one thing I'd like to have people take away is that long-term care needs to change. I know they're talking about making changes and making things better for seniors, but unless they start doing it now, it's going to end up on the back burner again. So this is what I'd like people to know, that just because we're old doesn't mean to say we don't have feelings and we don't want to do things and we don't want to laugh and dance. Some of us can dance a storm. Just because we're old, we still want to do those things. So I want people to realize just because we're in long-term care, don't forget about us. Our situation needs to change. It needs to be improved. And unfortunately, it's taken something like this to show it up. So rather than our premier putting it on the back burner and saying, we'll look after it when this is over, it needs to be done now. Because when this is over, there are going to be so many other important things to look after and fix that long-term care will be put on the back burner.
Yeah, it does always seem like there's another problem that comes up, and typically mental health
Yeah.
and the health of the people that are most
Oh,
out of
yeah.
sight get forgotten.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What about for you, Dee?
Yeah.
What would be the biggest takeaway you would suggest that people get from this and from any of the interviews that you've been doing?
Thank you, Andrew, first of all, for giving Sharron, Devora, and Barry the opportunity to speak on this first. They always say the comments or their comments in a much more poignant and expressive way than I ever could. But from an OARC standpoint, I will take away the incredible sense of collaboration that has been evident over the last couple of months. Long-term care has been notorious over the years for working in silos and having a competitive nature and having egos in the way in terms of some of the management structures and the operational aspects of it. We have come together in a way like none other in terms of collaboration. We, as organizations, even in the home level, people are being redeployed and doing jobs and just helping, just stripping away all the egos and just doing whatever we can do to help. And I think that's been a beautiful testament to what living life is all about, caring for one another. And the other part that I will just echo from Devora's statement is that we had better not, shame on us if we go back to the way long-term care was. The measure of a society, the value of a society is measured in terms of how well we care for and provide for our seniors, our elders. And this has shone a huge light on our inadequacies as a nation and as a province. We will be moving towards team member reformation, and what I mean by that is PSWs need to be paid well. They need to be offered full-time positions so that they can work in one site at a time, not have to work at 3 or 4 or even 5 locations to make ends meet. And we must build buildings that are suitable for people to live in comfortable and in comfortable ways. Many of the outbreaks of COVID-19, many of them are due to the fact that the physical buildings are not conducive to infection control, where you have multiple people sharing a room with a curtain between them. We have to do better by our elders, and we have to do better in terms of preparation for another crisis so that we are not left scrambling.
I think that's definitely that's a very powerful takeaway from this. Thank you all for joining me and for sharing your perspectives and the information that you have from your roles. I really appreciate you giving your voice to people that are outside that don't have a chance to hear this otherwise.
Thank you, Andrew.
Andrew.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for doing this on our behalf.